Hi guys, and welcome back to the videos. In today's video, we're talking about Tortilla. It's made some really interesting changes over the last few weeks and months even. But there's been some major news, and I really think it highlights where the company is going to go. And for me, it's kind of taking it from a moderately slow growth franchise stroke owner operated restaurant QSR story to something that's, I know it's a little bit long winded, to something that's potentially quite interesting. So let's get into it. So on the 25th of June, 2024, one second, let's make this a bit bigger. Tortilla purchased a competitor, the largest competitor in Europe. Now, in practice, that's still not a huge competitor because the stores, I think they only had 30 or 40, but we'll see a bit more details here. The good news is that it adds stores, new stores, both franchise and owner operated in great locations in France. So they paid a total of nearly 4 million euros. And I think it's fantastic. It's part of a new strategy set by Andy, the new CEO, who stepped up from CFO. One moment. As I mentioned, 13 company owned, 13 are company owned stores and 19 are franchise. That's like 32 new stores. And it costs Tortilla about 400K per store to create a new store anyway. So if Tortilla were to build 32 stores, it would actually cost nearly 13 million, 12.8 million. And it would take a long time to build 32 stores. So I think this is fantastic. And let's dive a bit deeper into this. So the company's called Fresh Burritos, one they bought. As I said, 19 are franchised. So it gives Tortilla the sense of managing franchisees, an instant franchisor base in one country, in France. So they can find a French person to manage those franchisees, and they can test the waters. Do they want to manage, a franchisee network? So I think that's fantastic. And like I mentioned, the capex would be 12.8 million, basing it on the 400K in the UK. I don't know if the prices are exactly the same, but they're getting that for less than 4 million. So this is like a fantastic deal. Also, it kind of provides a springboard into Europe, because it gives any European investors or any European franchise partners the option to see they've already got a network now in France. There's going to be synergies with a central production kitchen. This is similar to what other fast food brands do. K-Box has got one of these. Domino's has got one of these. They're massive factories where they produce and distribute a lot of the ingredients. So it's going to provide wider buying power and operation and marketing efficiency. So it's just fantastic, and you can imagine there's quite a lot of transfer from people going from Paris to King's Cross with the Eurostar. And there's loads of, there are many tortilla restaurants in London around the Eurostar, including in King's Cross and Euston, which are 5-minute walk from each other. So this is fantastic to have franchise stores and new stores in Paris and around France. It's brilliant news. So there's a new European sub-board committee created, chaired by the group non-exec director and former Yum Foods European Franchise Division CFO Francesca Tortilla. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that. If I've butchered it in any way, it's not my intention. And joined by a new non-exec director, Giles Beringer, former VP and develop and franchise for KFC, which used to be a part of Yum Brands. I don't know if it still is. So they got two heavyweights there in the franchise world that are kind of ready to probably hire a head of franchise manager, or I don't know what the title would be, but somebody who would manage and oversee many franchisees. So they've acquired Fresh Burrito through a combination of cash and bank debt, which is fine. So I think that's absolutely fine. And you'd expect that, you know, they did do a video and they talked that they think that they're going to increase the sales just by having a rebrand and improving the food quality. And they're going to add stores as well in France. So the owner's joining Tortilla as well. He joined it similarly by having a stint in America. And listen, guys, I went to America. I had a stint in America, and I distinctly felt that when I came back, that there was nothing. And that was 2010. I think Tortilla started in 2011. So it's a similar kind of time. And look at this, Timothy from the group that they just bought, Fresh Burritos, founded it in 2011. So, you know, these guys had the same experience I had, that the UK and France needed burritos. So the other thing, not only does it improve the franchise option, but the other pillar that they're looking at is it increases the brand internationally. So I think this is really important. I've asked these questions in investor meets before, literally about why isn't it growing internationally, and why aren't we franchising? So they have 89 stores. It's going to add 32 onto that, which is fantastic. So they're going to be well over 100 stores. They're going to open this central production facility, which is enormous. 1,400 square meters is massive. And it looks like they're saying it will enable expansion to nearby countries. So after 24 months, they think it's going to generate 2.5 million in EBITDA profit after 24 months of maturation. So I don't know if that includes any period before maturation, but let's call it 2 to 3 years. That's amazing. You know, if they've bought it for 4 million and then it's going to contribute 2.5 million, you know, after 2 years, that's, you know, that's incredible. You know, basically after 3 years, they would have made back the money back and more. So it looks to me like it's returning over 30% a year. And then after that, to be honest, you know, after the maturation period, it's returning kind of 80% a year. So it's just a no-brainer and just very, very good deal. So once this deal goes through, it looks like it's happening. They'll have 121 stores. And they said on another call that they're going to try and add 5 owner-operated stores a year and 15, I think it was 10 to 15 franchise. So if we call that 15 a year, that means in about 3 years' time, they'll have 150 stores. That's actually making a lot of progress. And to be honest, I've been disappointed with Tortilla's progress over the last kind of 4 or 5 years. But to me, this is fantastic because it shows a pathway forward for me, because I don't get the impression that Tortilla want to build out massive amounts of owner-operated stores. I just don't get that impression. I just don't get the feeling that they want to have 1,000 stores in the UK, even though they probably could. But I don't get the feeling they want to do that. I don't get the feeling that they want to potentially manage thousands of franchisees in each country. But I do get the feeling from their recent acquisitions of Chilango and now Fresh Burrito that they're in the market to buy and build, you know, bolt-on acquisitions, buying smaller competitors, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40 stores and slowly building out owner operated stores across the estate, and then probably trying to secure partners that are interested in being the master franchisor in each country. Now, when you have a master franchisor in each country, those people can run with it. They can manage hundreds or thousands of franchisees, and you can have a big business. Now, I know this because I've invested in Domino's Pizza in the UK. They had the master franchisor license for the UK and Ireland, and they grew that company from, I mean, I started investing when they had about 80 stores or 100 stores. And then I sold most of my stocks when they got to 1,000 stores. So when you have somebody like that, a team like that, that has a license to grow an estate, that, they can run with it. And that could be a model for Tortilla, that every country they sell a license, to a bunch of operators, and they take a margin, 10, 20% or whatever it might be. That could be an option. But even so, to me, it looks like they're going to do the buy and bolt on acquisitions, right? They've done it already with Chilanga in the UK, Fresh Burrito in France. They're probably going to do that per country in Europe. And I still think they're probably going to have some owner operated stores in each country to kind of show the franchisees how it's done. I think I expect that they'll still have some stores, but I wouldn't be surprised if they also go down this master franchisor route and they sell licenses, and then they just sell the ingredients to the master franchisors and sell them to the franchisees, a bit like what Cake Box does. They produce all the ingredients, they get the economies of scale, and they get the great relationships with suppliers, and then they just do the marketing and they just sell the ingredients to the stores. I think that's the way it could be, and I actually think that's like a really good model. And I'm actually excited about Tortilla for the first time in quite a while. The new CEO has got energy. The founder looks like he's jumping on the calls now, and they're talking about the non-execs, being more involved. The other thing that's quite exciting about Tortilla is Luke Johnson has invested. He's a big retail investor in the UK. I have some small amount of history with Luke Johnson, as much as I went to one of his talks and met him, and he was relatively cordial. But then I invested in one of his companies called Patisserie Valerie, which notoriously went bust very suddenly due to an accountancy fraud case. And that was Luke Johnson's company. He wasn't involved in the fraud, but I think he suffered pretty badly off the back of it. I sold my shares before they went to zero, but I think I did take I don't know, 30, 40, 50% downgrade in valuation, because I kind of could see it coming. And the shares didn't plummet straight away, which was surprising. It took a few days for them to go down, maybe even a few weeks, I can't remember. Anyway, he's invested in Tortilla. Now, whatever you feel about Luke Johnson, I know a lot of people that invested in Patisserie Valerie are really pissed off with him. I don't really mind. I think everyone makes mistakes, and I think it was a valid mistake. He's invested 700,000, which is it's a big amount. It's not an enormous amount, but it's still like 3% of the company at the time. And the shares went from, I think, 16, 17 million to 21 million. They're really cheap, and if we think about the store valuation, at 121 stores, if the capex is, just I'm going to open up my calculator here, and if the capex is 400k, then 121 stores will be worth nearly 50 million, 48 million and 400k. If the actual net value, forget the capex, was a bit less at 300k, the sale value, it'd still be the valuation, the kind of book value of the estate would be 36 million. and right now it's trading at 21 million. So it's an extreme value growth play, or GARP, growth at a reasonable price. I actually think that it's an extremely lowly priced stock at the moment. You know, to have 121 stores, to have these people from Yum Brands, you know, as non-execs. Andy's been with the business 7 years, does seem energetic, does seem he wants to make progress with the company. And I just kind of feel like it's an exciting time for Tortilla. You never know, they may try and do these bolt-on acquisitions every 2 years. I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, if that were the case. Um, and maybe these tired other owners of small chains might just feel it's a great time. They can get shares of Tortilla. They can get a good price for their store estate. They can reduce their stress. It kind of works for everybody. So I think this new strategy of like bolt-on acquisitions, bolt and build and buy, is it? Or yeah, I think it's called build and buy. I think that's a brilliant strategy. So I'm just excited about Tortilla. I think it's a great valuation. Me personally, I have been working in the technology space for some time now, so have limited funds, but I would like to invest more. And I think, you know, I will be looking at Tortilla in closer detail compared to some of the angel investments, because I just think there's like so much clear value there. You know, the store estate, honestly, I think it's going to be worth between 30 and 50 million, and it's only valued at 21 million. That negates the fact that these, you know, they've bought this estate before the Olympics. The Olympics are just about finishing by the time I'm recording this video. So I imagine they've probably captured quite a lot of revenue. And the brand value of having Tortilla and Fresh Burrito, you know, around the Olympics means that they're going to capture future value from all those tourists that are going to go on to visit the UK and London, or maybe even Dubai, because I think they have some stores in Dubai and the UAE. So I think it's a very exciting time for Tortilla, actually. And I know it's been a shit ride for investors. Um, I think I invested at like 100p, 70p, 50p. I don't know what it is now, but it's yeah, it hasn't been a great ride, but I do think it's a very interesting time, and it's an asymmetric trade. You know, it's unlikely they're going to go bust. Very unlikely. I know someone on one of the calls said they had like 50 million in debt, forgetting that 40 million of the debt, or more than that, about 45 million, was working capital, was basically lease liabilities. You know, and when you're running a retail store, unless you're McDonald's and you're buying the stores, you know, it's a standard thing to have. You know, it's the cost of running the business. It's not like it's not kind of venture debt or anything, or capex debt. It's just the cost of having the stores. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would look at the credit liability with the bank. So this 4 million, there's a cost to that. Um, I would look at that. But I don't have too many balance sheet concerns. I know there are some really shrewd investors on my membership, you know, of my subscribers on YouTube. If you spot anything that you're concerned about with Tortilla, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But at the moment, I don't personally think there's a major concern there. I do think that Tortilla is a cyclical business, and I didn't think it was. I thought it was a growth company. Remember, I was a long-term investor in Domino's Pizza from 2010 to 2016, 17. So a few years. And actually, I think it was before then. I think it was 2007 or 2008. Anyway, throughout those recessionary years, Domino's like just kept growing and the shares kept going up. And that's kind of what I thought Tortilla was going to do. You know, the business has done better, but I think it's been hit badly in terms of the inflation, and I don't think they've had so much flexibility with the price increases. They have increased prices, and I think I if they could reduce prices, I think it would be very good for their business. I think when I first started going to Tortilla, a burrito was like £6, and now I think it's like 10. So I think if they could get below the £10 mark, if they could get like to £8, they would probably sell more than more burritos. I would probably go there 4 times a month, whereas now I go once or twice a month. So I just think that's an interesting thing that if they could get to it, I think it'd be fantastic if they could reduce prices. And I just think it would have a great um, effect. Also, think of the marketing. We're reducing prices, and we're not going to reach a £10 burrito for at least another few years. I think that would be an amazing like marketing campaign. I know they do free burritos on Burrito Day, but instead of doing that, I would see if you could reduce the price, and then you could keep people coming back. And obviously, the extra volume means you could reduce. The suppliers would give greater discounts and whatnot. Anyway, I'm not in their business, but that's just something I would consider. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I love it when my subscribers comment, or even non-subscribers comment to give me feedback, whether it's positive or negative. I do take it everything on board, and it does give me that kind of extra push to make more videos. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, give it a like and subscribe. Remember that knowledge is past, especially that kind of knowledge, and progress is everything. I'll see you guys in the next upcoming video. Take care.